Yeah, the call of wild's always bringing me home. Call of wild's always bringing me home. Call of wild's always bringing me home.
All right. Well, hello, wild ones. Welcome to another episode of the Find Your Wild podcast. I am very excited to have my friend here, Aliya Galim. How are you doing today?
I'm great, doing great. I was looking forward for this call and for meeting you and first following you and now having like the real taste of what I've been
Oh,
watching.
thank you very much, and I'm very happy to have connected with you and have done like a very special. You treated me to a very special body healing experience a couple weeks ago, which was really nice and has been really sitting with me very well. And so I very appreciate it. And it's very nice to be able to connect with you.
Likewise.
Yeah. So for people listening that don't know you yet, maybe to go into a little bit of your background and what you do.
Oof. Okay, the background is very scattered. It's all over the place. I was in corporate world and I was yoga instructor for many years. I was teaching teacher training courses. Then I was working more with like energy modalities, working with feminine body because I'm born as a woman. So I was curious to know
Right.
how does this device work in terms of energy. And then I shifted to or expanded to working with nature, animals, but humans always were present. So the human work was persistent throughout the whole experience. We can say that post-corporate life, spiritual whatever development started around 2012, 2013. And since then, people have always been my clients, and I'm the first person, my own client. And then it expanded to animals and nature, plants, and also bridging all these species together. So I work mainly with energy language, which is beyond the human perception or human language. I work with water and voice or sound resonance.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a very beautiful experience that we had together, and I'm very honored that you facilitated that for me. And it's cool to be able to hear more of your background and how your path leads, right? Like all the things that
Mhm.
maybe necessarily you don't think are the right path are always leading you towards what you're destined to be. Or sometimes it's even just as important to know what you don't want to do, or even while you're doing it you're like, this isn't resonating with me, and to find
Mhm.
that path towards what you're meant to do is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's
Yeah.
always changing, always, and I wouldn't say that I arrived. Don't think that anyone arrives to anywhere. It's always evolving and changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love your energy work and the connection with bringing and bridging the realms between us as what we say humans and animals, right? Like, because
Hmm.
I always view it as like, I guess we're still animals too, and
We are, and it's part of my work as well, because I think um, we are like animals with extra stuff or mechanisms. And
right.
as we are tapping into those more evolved mechanisms, we, I think, tend to forget our base, our instinct, primal, animal, animated part, and that's why we feel disconnected from nature. So I think we have really this advantage that animals don't have. We can be half animals, half humans, and
Yeah.
then we can bridge between the planet and the animals and understand them, because then we first animal is inside of me and the first human is inside of me, and how do they relate to each other, and then we can kind of distribute that around.
Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful place to be in the aspect of that, right? Like the balance, I like to say, right?
Yeah.
Between us as being animals, but we're also like we have modern technology, so like we have this very modern human aspect to us, but there is still so much that connects us to the animal worlds and the animal realm, and specifically embodiment. And I think that ever since our session, like the more I've been mulling it over, many things came up during our session, which we'll get into, but just the thing that's coming to me now is when I was younger, I feel like I always used to be obsessed with the idea of connecting to the higher realms and wanting to be in that space all the time. But the older I get, the more I realize how embodiment is much more important. So it was almost like I was trying to maybe journey out of my body too much and not enjoy being in my body now. And I think that a lot of the things that we talked about, like, in order to get to that space or that realm, even of the higher realms, I think one of my favorite quotes is that, like, in order to reach that, you have to have roots in the ground or something like that. So the more we dig down and embody ourselves, the more we can access these higher realms. Anyway.
I agree so much, especially because today in the modern spiritual realm or society, which is spreading, it's so trendy, it's spreading. Even bank workers are like talking about spiritual, like everywhere you go, somebody's doing some self-development. And there is a tendency to actually, it's almost like pseudo spirituality where people engage too much in the virtual mental emotional stuff around spirituality, but very disconnected from the body. They're not grounded. They cannot, for example, be in silence for 5 minutes. It feels uncomfortable. They cannot feel their feet and certain organs like details. But I would say that we have been given this device for a certain purpose, not just dress up, eat, have sex, and like sleep and poop. But there is so much more. And just like scientists, they say, I don't know what is true now, but it's like between 2 to 5% of capacity of our brain is known to us. And there is so much more in the body to discover unknown things than in space and cosmos.
Right. Yeah.
And there is no bottom, like, because the body is the door, is the access to those spiritual realms.
Yeah, it's amazing. And as we get older and we age, and especially, at least for me, like learning more and connecting more to these things, and especially through our session, a lot of the things came up, but the like body scanning I found very interesting. And I know you talk about the fluent body and how that connects to being children, and how children have more access to that. And do you think that that's kind of like, they say that when children are really little, they probably have more access to, like, and I don't know if you believe in past lives as well, but like they have more access to the spiritual realm because they're just born, and they have more access to their bodily needs than we do as adults, and we stray away from that as we get older.
Yeah, actually, there is an interesting quote I found. I would like to read it. And I think
Please.
it's going to cover everything, and then we will elaborate. It says,
Cool.
childhood is measured out by sounds and smells and sights before the dark hour of reason grows. So it's like the childhood is measured by sounds, smells, and sights. So it's very, very, very somatic, very physical experience. And in that video that you refer, where I'm explaining my modality of fluent body method, I share that our body is actually the animal, it's primal body. And we perceive the reality through the senses, but most of the time these senses are overstimulated by like anything. So we perceive reality literally. We think we see something and we take that literally, but there is so much more depth around it. Oh, can you hear my dog?
That's okay.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
usually my
So
dog barking in the background.
okay,
So
okay. So the child's body is not distracted by the reasoning, and reasoning comes from upbringing. For example, your reasoning is different from mine because the culture was different, what parents were passing different. In general, it's all the same, but some details are different due to religion also and different things. But in that age, like from moment of conception to let's say 2 3 year old, that baby is very blank, like a blank sheet of paper, very clean, pure, but also the body is so receptive, is so soft, and also it's developing so fast. So there is this tremendous power that is speeding so fast, developing, learning, like brain developing everything. And then at some moment we start slowing down, almost like decaying. Like in Tao, they say we actually, the true life is from conception till birth. This is the true
Mhm.
life. And then after birth, we're just dying. It's no
Mhm.
longer, but it's like different phase. So the fluent body means that the body has a language of its own. It communicates through mostly known as pain, maybe suffering, because suffering and depression is also a chemical state. Low capacity energy, very high, maybe very charged intensity, rushing and everything. So body gives those signals and we ignore them as adults because our mind is filled up with these ideas, concepts, beliefs. But in the body of a baby, it communicates and there is no separation between, oh, this is the mind and this is the body. It's just one. And
Right.
it's like I'm saying in the video, it's perception of your whole presence. And this is also how animals are. Like there are so many this beautiful little short video on YouTube or Instagram where like a 2 year old baby without any fear, she comes to a big horse and she starts pulling his mane or like doing something, and the horse is in such trust and peace, and the girl does not have any fear. While when adults come close to horses, there is this like rigidity, like, oh, he's gonna kick me or something's gonna happen. And these are not original natural beliefs, they're imposed.
Mhm.
So the body is like a medium between the internal, that innocent animal state, including the energy, and the external, I would say, first of all, nature, and between us. And then this allows us to perceive each other by passing judgment, like, or you are this, you told me this, and now you are a bad girl or a good girl. You know, it's always constant evaluation between I like it, I don't like it. She's nice, she's not nice. Or I like myself or I hate myself. So this is more like a noise that is not innate and primordial, but it's more acquired as we grow.
Mm. Yeah. It's such a beautiful sentiment too, because, a lot of what drives me is obviously my son, and
Mhm.
how can, I think about this all the time, is like, how can I, like, break certain, like negative cyclical patterns, like there's like, that big quote on the internet, like, what is it, breaking generational trauma, right? Like being kind of like the curse breaker in this. And how do we make sure that, and they say that children are, their inner voice comes from like your parents or something when you're younger, and like as you grow. So how do we, and this is maybe like a more philosophical question, but feel free to answer it, but like, how do we make sure that we're not And I think it just lends itself to why it's so important for us to, as people, as parents, like talking about the energy that we're giving back and giving off when we're not healing ourselves and when we're not exploring what's happening in our bodies, right?
So if I would cover the first part from my understanding, and it might not be the absolute truth or like correct answer, but when children grow and when you raise a child, they do not learn from what you say, because
Right.
we believe that this is the main modality for learning. Like, I'm gonna tell you, this is A, this is B, this is good, this is bad. I'm your mom. I'm gonna be there always for you. I love you. Everything is well. So you project this in words and he can hear, but then there are other things that your body is projecting. So he learns from conscious unconscious behavior. So there are maybe let's say violent families, and it doesn't have to be direct aggression. Like there is a client I'm working with. She said, I grew up in normal family, but the environment was hostile. But I cannot say that my parents ever did something wrong. So as she was growing, mother naturally would say things that she learned to say, like, I love you. Everything is good between me and your father. We will always be there for you. But then what is happening in their parents' internal world and relationship world is, let's say, chaos or misunderstanding. But they keep saying, it's like the child is living in different realities. One is being said, and that feeds the emotional mind. And then one is actually happening constantly. Even the child can sit in this room and you can be like, take your partner and say, like, let's go argue there so he doesn't hear. But the energy is there. So energy is not limited by space. Oop.
Oh,
Can you see me well?
it got dark.
Interesting. You know, when I work, it always something happens with technologies. This is the
I
example
know.
of energy. Okay,
Yeah.
so everything is being transmitted all the time, and it doesn't have beginning or end. While your sentence to your child can start and then you finish your speech, but then you walk around and you just fill up your space, and he's sharing that space.
Right.
And this kind of leads to that thing that you covered about the generational trauma.
Right.
Here I want to a little bit deviate. I would say as something maybe sounds weird, but I don't believe in trauma as it is depicted
Mm.
by society. Because if we look back into the past in the history, 10th century, 12th century, 15th, they were more difficult. I mean, like in terms of living conditions, more difficult life. Wars, conquering, women had less rights, birthing, diseases, everything. So I can say back then, physically, traumas were more present. But somehow people just get up, dust off their clothes, and continue working, like, I don't know, planting, gardening, cooking. But today, we talk a lot about trauma. And it's not just talking, we're actually imposing a lot, believe that there is trauma, it's very important, and we need to address it. Like in Vancouver, if I enter a bus, and you know there are ads on the buses, like on the ceiling, and
Mm-hmm.
it's now every bus has this, like, are you feeling depressed? Call us, we will help you. Or are you feeling lonely? Something. So what happens is that the message itself bombards the senses. So there is this constant reminder everywhere that trauma is real. Why don't you, for example, change such sign for, like, feel your energy body or smile to your heart? Like, how this is just, this message would be so different comparing to if I have a hurt feeling and I enter the bus and I read and I just reconfirm, oh yes, I'm depressed and I'm traumatized. So I would say today's realm of trauma is virtual and it's more imposed by belief because there is a benefit from that. First of all, there are many coaches and counselors who work with trauma. They focus on trauma and they would like to let's dig into trauma, let's look into it, let's face your darkness, what did your mother say, or who do you have to blame, and just excavating a lot of drama. And then there is medication, right? So it's actually, if you would say, well, something happened to me in the childhood, but I don't feel I'm traumatized. Naturally, you are no longer a client for such therapist and for such psychiatrist. So there is a benefit today, and it grows and grows. Despite so many modalities are born, so many therapies, we have more traumatic people. And then in my sessions, when we work, let's say somebody has a trauma, and then when we dive into the body and look at the information, a person is experiencing and perceiving this from completely different lens. It means that it's not, there is kind of, you look at that picture of that event from a different perspective, and instead of stopping there with the emotional charge, the emotional become neutral, so you're not emoting anymore, but you pass through and you learn. So then when you learn, you understand, oh, okay, so that event, it was actually for this, and for that. And right now, maybe that was traumatic experience was dragging itself for 20 years. So 20 years bumping into this emotional scenario of I was traumatized and my mother did this and my father did that. But then suddenly just into hours, you see things differently and you don't have to carry that belief anymore. So it's like we're carrying something that is not even real.
Interesting. It kind of, so 2 points to that is that just popped up into my head was the one is the body memory, right? Of what you just said. That's what comes to me is your body memorizes trauma as something different than your emotional trauma. And it's the being in your head and then feeling it in your body. And it's almost maybe that there's almost two different forms of trauma there, or that there's a separation.
Yeah, I actually, yes, true. And you kind of allow me with this question to not correct, but add something.
Sure.
So if we look at the toddler's body, we can say healthy toddler, not born with any abnormalities. This is a body free of trauma. And then if we pass forward to 50 years old, this same adult, this same human, the body looks differently. There is certain things that body has to take on. It has no choice. I wish the body could choose, I wish because the body has its own consciousness, but it cannot operate without this, and this most of the time leads and forces. So the body has a consequence of becoming certain shape. Let's say very dark skin, very, I don't know, anorexia or obesity or limping, humping, all of those things, they were not designed this way, right? The body was not initially having this. But the body has two things. First, it can take on the layer of this superficial imposed influence and become that and give, I would say, physical suffering that impacts the emotional mind. But at the same time, underneath these layers that grew there is an access to internal world. It's almost like the body has two levels, the superficial and the internal. The superficial is the consequence of personality. And like I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying in the video, personality means character, role, actor. And
Mm-hmm.
then, and on the outside, we are very similar, like our sufferings, our emotional part are very similar. That's why we relate to each other through the pain as well. But when we
Right.
dive into the core of the body, to internal body, we find individuality, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that my body is capable of this and of that. That core was always there, and in child's body, it's very active and functional.
Right.
But then it starts stepping back because the layers of personality, like onion, grows and grow, and then eventually the body is changing.
Right. Right.
Did I manage to answer your question?
Yeah, yes, you did. And then I wanted to add to that as well, talking about, right, how society and how it kind of reminds me of the news, right? Like they're always focusing on the negative things in the news instead of
Mm-hmm.
like positive news. And I think that we've seen a lot, or maybe not even a lot. I think there needs to be a lot more, but definitely a shift in positive news. Like there's a couple of Instagram pages where it's like positive news stories because people want to, you know, like you said, the more you keep seeing negative stuff, right? I think that there's a difference between, you know, your own, what you're going through yourself, and then
Mm-hmm.
when you do see and recognize, oh, and then it reminds you, and then you get stuck in your head. It's kind of like what you were saying. And I think that it's the overthinking. At least I know for myself, my overthinking definitely gets me into trouble a lot of times. And it brings me into like a spiral. And I think that's where, I'm sure in a lot of cases for people that they can relate to that spiraling aspect of overthinking. And I think that and what I like that you do and focus on is like the body, and right, like that's what Buddha says. If you're thinking too much in the future, if you're thinking too much in the past, like, you know, thinking too much in the future brings anxiety, thinking too much in the past brings sadness or depression. Like being in the now, being in the present, being in our bodies and feeling every aspect of it, helps to take out some of those, I don't know, depressive states, or being able to access that
Mm-hmm.
more peace level because we're in the present. It helps more.
Yeah, yeah, true. And this, what you mentioned about the news, like, you know, because I work also with some forms of addiction, not very heavy opiate, but they can be medical, pharmaceutical pills, or like alcohol. Um, And then when we tap and dive through the body, one thing that I find in common in many people and many clients actually, they download it during the session, that there is addiction to suffering, to
Hmm.
drama. If I use word suffering, it's very strong and nobody wants that. But if I would say, imagine, I would tell you, let's go to movies and watch this Charlie Chaplin movie. And we're going to sit there for 2 hours watching. Most probably, most of people will fall asleep and they will say, like, this is boring. You know, but now in the movies, one movie blockbuster has like so much intensity that I actually cannot go to movies anymore. It's like super loud, everyone is killing, and in 1 minute there has to be 10 scenarios. So
Hmm.
the charge of what we construct the news, not only negative news, for example, there is this pop-up on my phone always. I don't know how to switch that off. It says like about what scientists discovered. And then I started seeing this pattern, like every day there are 20 news about scientists found something. So the intensity of speed of information that we are discovering or creating is too fast. And
Right.
and then, for example, it's almost like coffee. You drink your coffee, you get that boost, and then next morning it crashes down the adrenal glands. But you need another boost, and now you're hooked. The same way people take the phone and they start scrolling, and they don't even know like what are they looking for, but it's just like you cannot
No.
stop. And then suddenly 2 hours pass. So there is this
Mhm.
body gets overstimulated, and there is something addictive about it, where you cannot get addicted to peace. There is no
Right.
way. People sometimes say, just today, like 2 hours ago, I had a session, and my client was like, "Oh well, but that's kind of that peaceful life is boring." We need some drama, we need some stimulation, emotions, like emotions make us vital. So
Right.
I would say there is difference between feelings of the body and emotions.
Mm,
Like
that's a good point. Yeah.
if you take a wild deer feels everything beyond the skin, beyond the fur. It also has kind of instinctive reaction to I don't like, but there is no emotions, right? There is
Right.
no desire to go and kill you because you are black or white or something else. It's just like survival mechanism. You exhibit intense charge, and I don't feel this is safe for me, and I'm gonna run away only for my
Right.
balance. So they always seek balance, and we kind of seek self-destruction, and it gives pleasure.
Right. Hi, wild ones. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Find Your Wild podcast. This episode is sponsored by my clothing brand, Femme Sauvage, and you can find a discount code and link in the description. So check it out. We have a lot of amazing designs, and $5 of the proceeds goes to different charities. So please feel free to check it out and enjoy the rest of the episode. Thanks so much. It's funny that this is a good point to bring up, but I've had a friend, I don't remember exactly who said it, so I apologize for not quoting you correctly, but or if I didn't quote you correctly. But he they said that you know, before we come here in the spiritual realm, we kind of come to earth to get the drama because peace is kind of boring, and like the afterlife is kind of boring, so like that's why we kind of reincarnate or whatever back onto earth is is to
Kind of
get that.
true, but we judge that from human. I think
Sure.
this concept of that peace and harmony is boring is imposed.
Mm,
So you can, if I will tell you the true purpose of life is finding balance and peace, and if everybody will go there, everybody's gonna become peaceful and balanced. Then the drama energy, because it's also it needs resources to exist. So it
right.
eats on our emotions. So certain belief systems, they are not even created by like individuals. I can't even say where they're created, but they're like imposed programs that hold us back and don't and force this certain belief that this is boring. But if you go
Mm,
and actually many people, many addicts are saying that they ended up in certain drug addiction because they were bored. Like I went
um,
somewhere and my friends were just taking something and I was like kind of bored. So this is how we get into trouble. But this is wrong bored. When you are in peace, actually I'm going to refer to something you said. There was a time when I was like really interested in near death experience. And there is
mm,
this channel on YouTube that records people who had like 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Now, finally, they're feeling free to speak about it. So they say, for example, let's say, are after a car crash, they're being brought to hospital and everybody's like in panic and there is so much pain and screaming and suddenly pass out and they're above the ceiling or somewhere. The first thing they say that all that fear and pain and emotional is gone. It's like complete
Mhm.
peace, neutrality. And then they can see their family sitting in the waiting room. And it's like I don't know, people maybe said similar things like, I see my family, I see their pain, I know they are worried for me, but kind of almost I don't care. It doesn't touch me. I just
Mm.
know that everything is well. So they describe in whatever human language available such state of peace, and they never say it's boring. It's actually so fulfilling. It's so complete, and it's so also bring in a little bit the baby.
Mhm.
The baby just sit there and plays with mud or something, right? And there is such focus and constant learning exploration through the body, through touching this texture, whatever. And if I
Right.
will put you into mud, you will tell me, okay, I'm done after 5 minutes.
Right. The older we get, the more bored we get, right? Like how the child is just content with what's around them. And I'm sure, it reminds me of our primal ancestors as well, right? And how um they must have been, like our ancient ancestors, how they must have been, so focused on learning to survive, or they I don't even think they could probably have time to be bored. They're working their bodies so much, or hunting, or gathering, or walking to the next destination, or maybe running away from trying not to be prey or something like that, or making art, or finding something there.
Right.
And yeah, it reminds me of, like, people wanting to tap into that energy more, and that primal aspect, our ancient ancestor aspect, like that is truly being in the body. Like how also, and I think science really proves this, right? If they say this about bird song, and you sit outside and you listen to bird song, and it just, resets you. If I'm sitting outside and I'm watching the birds, I am so at peace. Like I could watch the birds and hear and listen to them and be with them all day. Like I think it's so fascinating.
That's the
Yeah.
power of the sound, of natural
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And speaking also of horses, I don't know if we connected on this, but I also have a horse as well.
You have horse
Um
in your place.
Not at my place. He's at a barn.
Wow.
He's older now. He's probably like he's in his early 20s, or like mid 20s now. So I don't ride him anymore, but I go just to be there with him and like be with his energy.
Mm-hmm.
And um I've always loved horses ever since I was growing up. I've been riding since I was 6 years old, and I haven't rode in a couple years because I'm just focused on, caring for him and everything like that. But that's another thing that I love that you do. And horses, energetically speaking, they really pick. I mean, that was one of the first things that my instructors ever told me when I was riding was, it's kind of everything's kind of your fault, because they can feel everything you're feeling. If
That's
I
a good
fell off,
instructor. Mm-hmm.
yeah, if I fell off, it was my fault because I did something, or whatever. And I think that horses, especially for like their healing properties and their connection properties, and kind of like you were saying before, is that, a little child can go up and not have any fear, right? And the horse feels that. But the second that like an adult that's uncomfortable around horses goes up to them, like you can as somebody that's a horse lover and knows horse body language, you can immediately tell that the horse knows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
What do you think that like for people listening, and like to talk a little bit more about your work and your energy space with horses, like you probably see something similar with them, right?
Hmm. Well, first to say, I cannot say like many people, I was grown with horses and I was started riding early. No, though I'm from Kazakhstan originally, which is like nomadic place, and
Mm.
actually this is Central Asia is where horses were first domesticated. But my encounter with horses started just 3.5 or 3 years ago, like just recently. And according to this, I'm not even an expert in the frame of like horsemanship.
Sure,
And
sure.
what I really like about myself, and I really love that, and I'm so grateful for that to myself, that I don't learn from people. I look, observe, and I understand something, but I learned in the moment, right? So there was a moment when I went to Costa Rica, and I actually had I don't know if we'll cover that today, maybe not, my Iboga experience. I was serving myself and like holding space for myself. So it took place in a very remote ranch in the mountains. And I didn't know that there are horses, but I go to this little hut, and then there is a painting, like almost like a kid drew, like, and there are two heads of horses, nothing else is in the room. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know, I felt like I almost like want to stroke the mane and touch, And then past 2 days, when my journey was over, the guy who is looking after the ranch, he came over, he brought me some, he said, oh, if you're gonna take a walk there, actually we have deers, horses, and cows. I said, you have horses? Okay. So I go there, and that was the very first encounter with horses. That was actually the first me, just horses in complete wild environment. These horses, they were born and on the land, but they were never ridden, so we can say they're feral but not wild.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
they came to me and I was singing to them, which is really weird because now all of this together, it came back. So it was 3 years ago or maybe 4, and I had this momentum of that I cannot explain, of like I just felt that there is something between me and horses. And I have a
Mm.
video of that, like it's amazing. So I was singing, they were falling into kind of like sleep state, and there was a little bit of drama, and then they all calmed down, and I was like, okay. So but then I wasn't, after that experience, I wasn't like, okay, I'm a horse girl now, because I was busy with some like with other things. So as I move, this is how it
Sure.
happens, just things come up to me. So then okay, eventually started coming to me more in my life, and I somehow had access to this farm or that farm, or there was a farm family zoo when they had 2 horses. So people started giving me permission to come in and be with them, and I was like, I want to volunteer, and they have no idea what I do, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do. But I just want to be with a horse. So yeah, and then simultaneously I learned about there is this animal communication thing, where
Mm.
like people learn how to communicate with animals, they receive their thoughts, whatever. I was like so obsessed with that. There is one animal communicator that I really admire, and energetically I feel she is the most transparent and pure without any agenda. Her name is Anna Breitenbach. Maybe you've seen her. It's called
Uh,
Animal Spiritual Communicator. It's like also very viral. I'll send you the link. And
yeah.
so I wanted to learn that. I wanted to sit next to a horse and the horse tell me things. For example, they say like, "Oh, I like this stable," or I miss that human," or "here hurts," or something. So things started developing, but I never received information like that.
Mm.
Started
Yeah.
receiving in a completely different way. It wasn't something, and then I realized that this translation is very much human, like as if horse has lips and knows the language and starts like, "Ba, ba, ba, ba. I like this," and like very chattery. And I felt like actually animals don't talk like that. They don't have
Right.
thoughts, they don't have human language, because these are like symbolic. they have more feeling and energy, and then it translates to my head. And for example, once I was standing here at the ranch next to a horse, and he was standing, and I just received this just feeling of, I'm so tired. Like I'm like globally tired. This was a huge. And then I felt that, but I stood there and I just like kind of sent back like, well, you know, you can rest. Like you don't have to carry all of whatever you think you're carrying. And he made such a like very long exhalation. His head went down. And it's like, so that was not something like a story between us. And they do take so much charge, but I would say they don't suffer from humans the way we think, because their bodies are so evolved and they're in such acceptance of everything that they constantly self-repair. But what they ended up doing, something that I actually kind of communicated from horses, that they have certain internal ability that globally horses did not reveal it outside into the world ever, because they are constantly being labeled. And this label, it's like, you know, if I will tell you, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, eventually you just become that. But while inside, you are completely something else. So we start receiving from them what we impose. And there are many stories, like rescue stories, like, oh, we rescued this horse and he was tortured and blah, blah, blah. And people hold on to those stories. And then they have visitors, they say, oh, this is our horse, and everybody feel compassionate. But this compassion is actually has very big load. It's not necessary, because that happened long ago, and horse doesn't leave that anymore because they always stay in the present moment. But people keep saying, creating that reality, you know. And in this documentary with Anna Breitenbach, she goes to a place with a panther or a puma, I don't remember. It's a black panther, and he was like hiding in his enclosure, very hostile. He didn't want anyone to approach. And when they purchased him, his name was Diablo, like very whatever. And then he communicated to her that he does not resonate with this. Like what? And the story. And she said to the keeper that you should stop saying that he was tortured or he tortured somebody and his name is Diablo, because this is the label that does not resonate the past energy and the presence. So when they change the story and they call him spirit, like I have a goosebumps now, like I think my hair is standing. You have to watch that.
I definitely will, yeah.
Next day his behavior changed, and the guy is like sitting in front of camera and crying. This is how like it's powerful. So, and there, for example, there is a horse here. There is a story imposed to her that she, because she's coming from a certain lineage of mothers who are very like, not aggressive, not angry, but
Sassy.
like maybe sass, maybe like drama queen, you know, and and she doesn't like to be touched. And then I learned that she was born in a certain way, like she was born dead and they revived her, did something. So there was a lot of like pressure on her body. They chained her, pulled her out. So I felt like, first of all, that was very like another huge topic, but for now. But if something is being born dead, this is the choice of that being. Like we don't have to interfere because we think we need to rescue everyone. Because it gives us, boosts our validation, like, oh, we rescued this horse, but we don't know what is rescue. Maybe rescue means leaving it in peace. So anyways, this horse is now, since I know her, she doesn't like to be touched. And I felt like we should stop this story. She comes from certain lineage, but she does not belong to the lineage. Like you are not just your genetics, you're not just your ancestral legacy. There is so much more in you, and it's actually much bigger. So
Yeah.
the way I was approaching her, I never like tried to train her or to pet her, do something to like, come on, love me, because it will be better for you if you are kinder, you know?
Right.
It took me 1.5 years, and now she comes up on her terms. And I know she still doesn't want, she's just very sensitive with her space. Like, don't just come and
Sure.
touch me, like, right? No one will
Right.
want that. So,
Yeah.
and now she comes and she asks me to touch her. In that 5 seconds or 5 minutes, she decides and then she leaves.
Right.
And that was her achievement, not mine as a trainer or as a horsewoman, whatever. Because she
Right.
felt like, maybe with me, she felt like, I can relax. You're not imposing any label to me.
Yeah. I think that, I really love that actually, you don't have this like, and I think it goes to the fact that like horses are just so energy, like they're really living in an energetic space, like they're really living in their bodies in the now. And I think that really is such a awesome sentiment that like you didn't have like years and years and years of experience, like you just needed to show up and be in tune with their body language, their space, their, just being present, but not expecting anything from them either. I think especially horses have been, unfortunately, it's a much better time for horses than it had
Yes.
been, because
Mm-hmm.
we used and abused them for transportation for so long, and now I think that there's a much more coming of age with horses where we can just be more at peace, and kind of like you said before and earlier, how there is this kind of going to, or wanting to heal more and wanting this healing
Mm-hmm.
space. And especially with horses, I volunteered actually when I was younger with a place called Horseability, and that place that they would, kids that had special needs, they would have them horseback ride and help them, and just the amazing journey that horses can really sense. I mean, it's funny, saying that, and now I might do things a little bit different, but I always say that like my horse is very sassy, like Raph is very sassy. His full name's Raphael, but I call him Raph for
Wow.
short. And yeah, I named him that after the Archangel of Healing too, which
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's amazing how he knows that he can get away with certain things with me, and he'll shove his nose at
Because you allow
me.
that.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, all right. But with my son, I mean, he is very gentle around kids. I mean, his whole energy changes, and how he connects with them. Um, I really love horses so much. And I think you don't need to have a lot of experience to be near them, or for you to be able to connect with them. You just need to be able to be present and allow them to come to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that in order to connect with the horse or any animal, you need to first connect with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And without connection to yourself, there is no point. And this is something that I'm developing. It's called equine resonance. It's like, it's not healing. The horse is not showing up as a healer, but you are showing up next to a horse. You sit down and you activate your own internal energy or mental abilities. The horse also does own thing. And me as a bridge or facilitator, I do my own thing. So one thing that I learned from horses, that they are not healers or
Mm.
dolphins, right? Because we see the results of miraculous improvement in kids, or like mental improvement in adults. We tend to call them healers, but I would say this is a label and role we impose to them. And it's actually very limiting. So, in a way, I would say, I would elaborate this that imagine, imagine you are very traumatized, very destabilized person, and you came to that state in a certain way by making wrong choices in your life. So from like say 10 years old, 20, and until you're like 40, you have been doing this sabotage in your body, sabotage in your mind, though you know that you know you're not doing good for yourself, you're harming yourself. So you take responsibility for that. And then you suddenly arrive to this innocent, pure being, and like, okay, I really messed up. That was my choice, but now he's gonna heal me. So I feel
Hmm.
like they don't owe this to us. It's our job. Why
I
do
actually
we,
I
yeah,
love that.
why
Yeah,
do
no,
we
I
rely on anything like herbs? Like, sorry, can I swear here?
oh yeah, yeah.
Can I fuck up myself and then someone, guru, herb, ayahuasca, or a horse is gonna heal me? But what happens that this session healing is done and they go back to the old pattern. Nothing changed. Yes, the experience of being with the horse was amazing, energetic. They felt something, but the human did not learn. He goes back to the same pattern. So I would say it's not almost fair, but also we abandon our own abilities. We do have them, and then imagine. So why disable children with disabilities have such amazing result? Because children don't have this guard of emotional layers or whatever belief system. That's why horse's energy can access, but also
Mhm.
the child does not sit there with the same adult mindset that this horse is going to heal me. The child is just interacting innocently and they are playing or riding as equals. So that's
Right.
why it's so much better. But then the environment in which this therapy is happening, I would like change it totally. All this, okay, saddle maybe is important for the child to kind of find the comfort. But like if we will leave these two beings on their own and not interfere, just observe what more things could happen faster, deeper. But we created things like bridle or lead or halter or anything just because we are scared of horses. It's for our own comfort. And also
Mhm.
the enclosures. Even if arena is huge, there is still borders. So, and then it's easier to catch the horse. It's available for the scheduled time, and then we can plan. So it's all human conditions. But imagine if you, uh, I don't know, we have here like feral horses. Let's go there. There is like hundreds of acres of freedom. And horses literally, naturally, on their free will, they choose to come or not. And if they didn't, then it's not your time. But if we go to such environment, and if horses will come to you and engage in whatever, and some kind of miraculous engagement will happen, then we can say this was truly natural, liberated, and horse understood what is necessary and came up to you.
Mhm.
But like when we bring them into certain and put and lead and they're with these kids under our in our conditions, we are limiting possibilities of the human and of the horses.
I I really love that too, and I kind of feel like that's gonna really like change my mind about certain things. Is that I think that you know being around horses, and now that I'm thinking about it, and when I go and I like just am with my horse and I'm grooming him and I'm just like giving him a hug and whatever, it's more of the fact is how you show up, right? And it's how you heal yourself and how they're able to basically their space, their their energy is helping you. And like you said, that like, especially the fact of like gurus, and right, everything is always like, oh, I need a guru. Everything that we need is within ourselves. So being next to, or being able to be next to a horse, I think that their energy just helps you to maybe be more in the present moment and to connect more with what's happening right now. And that really feels like it's healing, or maybe it feels like they're healing you, but it's actually you coming to a space within yourself that you are like recognizing certain things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are so many documentaries now. There is this also account, Horses for Mental Health. I mean, if we watch, it's amazing, and I do not want to disrespect or deny that something is happening there. I'm just saying that if we loosen up our internal cage and
Right.
investigate our own abilities, the possibilities of this can grow without submitting and dominating over horse, because things like liberty, like all those natural horsemanship, where people are like, well, we are just playing and horse is doing it on its own. But no, it's an enclosure and horse is not choosing. What if we, by the way, I'm now in the process of, I remember to tell, I'm in the process of making a documentary about
Oh,
horses,
wow.
and it's called Voice of Horses. This is actually where I'm going to elaborate what is the voice of horses and how can we hear it? Is it true voice that we hear, or is it just our perception and interpretation? So I'm really looking forward to sharing that in future.
Oh, I would love that. And I know we're starting to get towards the end here, but I would love
Yeah,
to have you back. I would love to have you back on at some point in the future, maybe when like you're about to release your documentary, or right after you release it, whenever that is, um and to come back to that too.
yeah, yeah. I would
Yeah.
love that too as well. Yeah, so yeah, it's basically anything that human comes in touch with or in contact with. It's not about that, because then we just rely and expect results. And this is the foundation of addiction. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I cannot live without my dog. My dog is my therapy, and something else, something else. But this doesn't allow us to pass by this like filter and really perceive what is their nature, because we know horses and dogs and other animals, especially domesticated, as just one, just very one narrow story, even if
Mhm.
it can be really long story, like if you open Wikipedia and whatever, but it's just, it's still, and it doesn't change. So I feel energetically, if we tap into, if imagine if I will, like in Black Man, switch that pen or whatever they do, and you have amnesia of what is
Mhm.
horse, all the labels and perception of what is horse is erased, and I'm gonna put you in front of this animal. You have this uh, chance to like just sit there and make your own interpretation of this being, and it might be completely different from mine, and it will
Right.
be based on your internal world. So
Right.
it's almost like horses, they start reflecting. But while they can reflect our drama, imagine if we will tap into our light and peace, they will reflect that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to come to that space. I think that, at least for me, being around them, it helps you to bring up that peace, that space. And I don't know, I think that's why horses are so special. But Yeah, I really enjoyed this, Aliya, and I will definitely would love to have you on again, especially when you're done with your documentary. And I know there was like a couple things that we didn't even uh touch on this time around, so I'd love to have
Step
you
by
back
step.
on in the future. Yes, step by step. But I really enjoyed this, and tell people that are listening. I'll make sure to link it below, but just to hear you say it, where they can find you and connect with you.
Well, the best is YouTube, which I really enjoy. I have Instagram, Facebook, but I don't use them that much, and it's not space where I feel like great. But I
Okay,
have a
yeah.
lot of footage. And it's very random, like a lot of horses, then a lot of plant medicine, and a lot of human. It's really nice to learn different things. So yeah, that would
Yeah.
be the best, and all
Okay.
the contact information is there.
Okay, great. And I'll make sure to link that below so people can easily access that. But thank you so much for your time. And I really enjoyed chatting with you. And I'm definitely going to mull over a couple of the points that you said. It was really, really good. And I think that it's really important for us to challenge ourselves to come to a level where it's, I always say this too in other episodes too, is like, oh, what, and I think that as humans, what does that animal have as a value to me, right? Like, why are we, putting that value on them, like, instead of just what are they as themselves? And I think that's really gonna sit with me, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Wild Ones, for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Revel in the moment like a river flowing to the sea. I feel the energy of life force flowing all